Time to work on my little house. So today we have Little House Needleworks, ABC samplers. This is number 3, the F, the G, and the H, and this beautiful, beautiful sunshiny yellow house in the midst of what looks like a strawberry patch. It's just, it's really sweet. So the colors I'm going to be working with today, what I'm hoping to get working through today, I probably won't get to them all in this video, but I intend to continue working on this piece tonight. I've got some classic colorworks in roasted chestnut and poblano pepper. That's what they've used in the lawn. And then the color of the house is honeycomb. So 3 quite nice colors to work with today. But what I'm going to start with actually is filling in just the 2 little strawberries that are left in the field here. This is DMC 3721 is this sort of pinky color here. So let's make sure I'm in the right spot. So it's a big weekend for world events as well as floss tube events. Have you all been watching Instagram to see people posting their lovely pictures from the New Jersey retreat? Everybody that's there already looks like they're having a fun time, meeting lots of friends, meeting new friends. I suspect there's some stash trading going on and maybe some stash enhancement or acquisition. Getting together with other people who stitch is always such a pleasure. So I wish all of you who are there this weekend that you are truly having the time of your lives. Some people have traveled from so far away to come. It's amazing. Ali from Australia and Ingeborg. It's incredible. I suspect they're having a fabulous time. So we'll try not to be too jealous that we don't all get to be there with you. But we will live vicariously through your photos. Can you believe it's Friday again already? Boy, did this week fly by. It just flew by. John and the kids left yesterday afternoon. They left while I was on my way back from my visit with Heidi Cran, and they made it up there safely around 10:30 last night. John has a GPS unit with marine maps on the boat, and so he is able to navigate at night to get over to the cottage, which is very helpful during the summer. He goes back and forth during the week so that he can come back to town and go to work. And then he will frequently come up late. So he'll leave right after work when he can, when it's close to the weekend. And he might not get up to the docking area until about, sometimes it can be about 11 o'clock at night, 11:30. And then, of course, he has to boat over. So with the GPS navigation, with the marine maps on the boat, he can just plot the course turn the lights on, the nav lights, and trust that it's going to get him where he needs to be. At least he trusts it. I don't like going on the boat in the best of days, so I'm especially going to leave the nighttime navigating up to him. There we go. There are my little strawberries in my strawberry patch, all finished up. So the only thing left that those strawberries need are, now this needle, this is an old needle, and I can tell it's an old needle because the eye of it is no longer very good and it's starting to shred my thread. So I'm going to switch to another needle, and I'm going to leave this one on the front and remember to get rid of it when I'm done this video. So a question for you, how do you get rid of your old needles? I'm always curious to know what other people do to get rid of their needles. I have a small little, what looks like an old film canister that has a lid on it, like a snapping lid. It's very small, and I have been collecting my old needles in that sort of canister, and then I always figured, I guess, when it was full that I would be able to just then snap the lid tight and throw it away safely. But I'm curious to know what you do. So I'm always a bit concerned about that, since it's a sharp and you don't want to just put it directly in the garbage. But, these things do wear out. So how do you handle that? I love hearing about what other people do, because sometimes you just never know what's going to trigger a neat little new idea for yourself to try something new. So I am using a size 28 needle. This is a 32 count linen. I was using my 28 needle, the one that Pamela sent me. I was using the 28 needle with my Glendon place yesterday, and I really enjoyed it. It made a big difference being on the slightly more open fabric. I really enjoyed that, and I was able to easily use the needle threader as well. So that was a treat. I find the needle threader is a bit big for the 28 needles, but it works perfectly for the 26. All right, so I'm going to fill in a bit more of the poblano pepper now. I'm going to work my way up the side of the strawberries because my goal is to get to the house. I really want to stitch that house. That's where I'm headed. So let's come up the side here. And I think, judging by this needle, I think I've got a Bowen needle here because it's not liking going through the backs of my stitches as well as some of my other needles do. However, it has a lovely feel in the hands. That's really my only not love of the Bowen needles, because I think they're an excellent needle. The way that I attach my thread in the back, stopping and starting, I need a slightly sharper tip. So I think I'm on the right track here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yes, okay. So on the Facebook group, if you've joined us over there, earlier today, Letitia, the Crafty Curator, posted a photograph of herself with Crafty Kim. So 2 of our members having the time of their lives in New Jersey. I love seeing photographs of people meeting each other. Just stitchers meeting each other. It's like living the dream. Having a friend to talk to about all of the things that only they would understand. It's like your own secret language. And I always like to think that people around us who happen to overhear your conversation must wonder what on earth you're talking about. Can you imagine? Because it really is a very distinctive language, one that we understand. I like that a lot. I'm actually wondering if this is a 36 count. This coverage feels like a 36 count with 2 strands. It feels tighter than a 32 count. I have a funny feeling. So, but anyways, I'm not that's neither here nor there. I'm enjoying the piece. I always love Little House Needleworks when I, actually sit down and get to them, because they're a sweet design. They're small, they're manageable. And they're, again, who doesn't love a good house? There's just such an allure of stitching a tiny little perfect house with a cute little door and cute little windows. And it just takes shape. It's like you're building a house right in front of your eyes. It's a small thing, but it tends to float my boat. And of course, this one has birds in it as well, which I love. If a design has a bird in it, I am generally want to stitch it. I was watching Michelle Bendy Stitchy this morning, her latest Tuesday Floss Tube update, and she was wearing a crown. She was wearing a tiara that I thought was apt and very sweet. She is very excited for the royal wedding, as are many other people. I am not sure that I am going to be waking up that early in the morning. First of all, we don't have cable. So I'm sure it's going to be broadcast somewhere online. But do I want to wake up at 4:30 in the morning to find it? I don't know. I'd like to get up at 4:30, make a cup of tea, and get my stitching. And if I'm in the mood for that, and it's easy to find, maybe then I might watch it. As I said, my family's gone away, so I have been beetling around, getting things done, being a very, very productive human over the last day since they left, which has felt rather nice. And I'm thinking, today is very windy outside. Very, very windy today. The forecast said that the wind gusts were going up to 50 kilometers. They were 30 kilometers gusting to 50 kilometers. But it feels a little bit more, it feels a little stronger than that, because I was half considering taking a break from my sewing this morning and going to sit on the porch with my coffee, but it was a bit too windy. So I stayed inside instead. But I think I'll take the dog for a walk in a little bit. And that way, even though it's windy, it can help blow me all the way home. I stayed up really late last night. I don't know what it is. There's something about, maybe you find this as well. There's something about when you have time to yourself, either when I'm at a retreat or when the family is gone overnight, and I find myself with that luxury of my time is my own, which is rare. And how am I going to fill it? Because there are so many things that I want to do. I am never going to be bored. Never, ever, ever. I am never going to be one of those people who is wandering around looking for something to do. I have too many things to do, which is a good problem to have. So when I find myself with a bit of extra time, the luxury of that extra time, it energizes me, and I don't want to go to sleep. I don't want to go to bed. It's like the kid in me comes out, and I want to stay up all night. I want to pull an all-nighter, and I want to drink coffee, and I want to watch, shows that I don't get a chance to watch regularly because no one here wants to watch them with me, namely The Crown. And well, Sarah watched Gilmore Girls with me, but she doesn't want to keep watching it again, and I like to watch it more than once, the original series. And I like to watch FlossTube. I like to listen to my audiobook. I want to stitch. I want to knit. I want to sew. I want to organize my things. I want to look at the stash and dream about what I'm going to stitch next. I want to look at my colors, think up new fabric combinations. And all of those things just start whirring around in my brain. And I feel so happy that I have the chance to do these things that I can't go to sleep. And so I was up until 2:30 in the morning last night. Literally. It was 2:30 when I finally said to myself, you really should try to get a little bit of sleep. So I did. And then 5:30 in the morning, the dog wanted to go out. So took the dog outside, and guess I figured it was time to get up. So that's not a whole heck of a lot of sleep. So I did get to work this morning and accomplished most of the things on my list today that I needed to do. And then I took a break from the list, and I went and I had a little nap. And having a nap in the middle of the day, when you don't have to set your alarm, you don't have to worry about whether or not you're going to wake up in time to remember to pick up the kids at school, just being able to close your eyes for 10 minutes and really just rest is the ultimate in luxury. So I will admit to taking a little nap today. But you know what that means. Now that I've had a nap, I'm going to be up really late again tonight. And I can't say that I'm sorry about that, because it's Friday off the grid night. I spend a lot of time checking out the Facebook group on Friday nights, and I can't wait to see those pictures come through. They're already coming through. They come through all week long, but starting with Australia, and that side of the world, the people who start their Friday much, much earlier than we do. It's really wonderful to see that people are taking the time for themselves and their projects and just putting in wonderful progress. Number of stitches, different colors, the different projects. There's such a wide variety of projects in the group, which I love. I've been doing a little bit of knitting. I am probably halfway down the foot of my sock. I am hoping to make it to the toe by the end of the weekend. I don't think I'll actually get the toe finished. The toe, excuse me, not the toad. I will get the toe up to the toe by the end of this weekend, and then hopefully I can pick away at the toe decreases over the weekdays next week. We'll see. I need to get the mitten tutorial out. It seems to keep being delayed. Not intentionally, just when there is, so many things to be done, it has taken the back burner. And I suspect a little bit of that is it's middle of May and I'm making mittens. But they're so cute. So most likely tomorrow I will film and upload that short little first tutorial video for the mittens cast on and joining in the round on DPNs. And it is not something that I am overly comfortable with. I also find it a little bit awkward. And I think that that's a good thing to show. I think that sometimes it's nice to see that, someone is that it's not always easy for someone else. Oh, here comes the dog. There she is. She always breathes really heavily after she comes up the stairs till she catches her breath. She'll lie down in a minute. There we go. Almost done this one. So just to finish up about the knitting, I do really hope to have that tutorial up tomorrow. It's on my to-do list. This needs to be. I'm not happy with how that thread is. There we go. It's better. Okay, so that looks pretty good. Let's sew in that end. She's right on top of my feet. There we go. Okay, so let's see, what's next? Can you hear the wind? I'm not sure you can, but it's catching I have the window open and the wind keeps catching the corner of the window and the blinds and knocking them about. It's really quite strong. We had a terrible windstorm here 2 weeks ago today, and it took some flashing down on one side from our roof line, and we still have to have it repaired because there was so much damage in the area that all of the roofing companies in town have been, extremely busy with work fixing everybody else's roof. So let's see. Now, what is that color there? 12 grain. There's only a couple of stitches of 12 grain that I'm missing. And then in fact, it's used in her dress. So how about we go ahead and fill that in? I have my threads tucked in this little plastic box. I'm sure you've all seen these. I think I got this at Michael's way back when. And I try to keep the threads together for each project, because if I take them out and I use them for other projects, then I never remember to put them back in. And sometimes quite a bit of time goes past before I get back to it, and then I would never remember what I'd done with them. So I try. I do have a bit of stash that's just, a free-for-all. But then I have other ones that are, this uses a lot of the similar colors for each chart. So keeping it all together in one place, I think, is handy. All right. So let's see. I like to put it back on the card because it keeps it corralled, even though it's loose in the tin. Daria, stop. Sorry, you don't need to listen to my dog giving herself a bath in the middle of my Stitch With Me video. That might be a little too close and personal. She's a big dog, so, you know, large dogs with rather large, wet tongues and snouts tend to make a lot of noise. Okay, 12 grain. Here we go. 12 grain. We had a fox in the neighborhood last week, and I can't remember if I shared this with you yet or not already. Just the most beautiful, large, it must have been a male red fox, and, you know, no sign of malnutrition or, you know, his coat was thick and glossy, beautiful, beautiful tail. He's obviously been eating well. But then I noticed that he was around our neighborhood at the same time every day, because it was right around the time that I was letting the dog outside in the morning. And, you know, her eyesight isn't all that good anymore, but she did still see him, and she did leave our property to follow him a little bit. I managed to call her back. But it surprised me at the fact how little afraid he was of both my voice and the dog. And, you know, she's certainly not a small dog. Now, I realize that she's not, when I'm out there with her, she's not overly aggressive. She's not, you know, she wasn't barking at him. I suspect she would have if I hadn't been out there. But he wasn't afraid of us. And that made me wonder whether or not a neighbor is possibly feeding this fox. And I'm really hoping that that is not the case. But we had another fox a few years back that every day in the morning would sort of make rounds around our house. And this was during the winter, was, you know, late winter, right before spring. And I would see tracks around the house. Now, keep in mind, we live in the city. You know, so they've been pushed out of their habitat. They don't have really anywhere to go. So they're sort of forced to live where they have to. And I caught a glimpse of this fox, and I think this must have been a female because this one was quite small, but also her coat was just in terrible shape. She looked ill. She looked sickly. She looked sort of bedraggled, and some of her fur was missing. And so I figured she had some sort of mange. And so I called the animal control, the local animal control here in London. And I said, you know, can you come and trap this poor thing? Because, you know, I think she's sick. I think she needs help. And they said that they can't because, what was the reason they gave? That as long, I can't remember exactly the reason they gave, but for some reason they were unwilling to trap this fox. But that the only reason she was sticking around was because there was obviously a food source. And once that food source was gone, or she felt that she had exhausted it, she would move on. And we happen to have a large rabbit population in this neighborhood. So I suspect that is probably why we are getting the odd fox. But boy, this one that has been around this past week is a handsome fellow. And fast. I mean, can really, really move fast. So that was a bit of a treat to see. Unfortunately, I think my barn swallows are not coming back this year. And I'm very disappointed by that, because this will be the first year in many, many years that we have not had a nest of barn swallows on the porch. And that is always such a big treat for me every year to watch. First they repair the nest and then lay the eggs. And, watching the male and the female swallow communicate with each other it's just really, really a unique experience, because I can leave the window open and I can hear them. I can hear them chattering to each other. And then the babies are born, and both parents feed and care for the young. And, one year we watched them fledge. We watched them leave the nest and learn to fly. Normally, in years past, they're always a bit late, and we leave for the cottage before the babies learn to fly. But there was one special year where we were here for it, and it was so fun to see. There were 5 of them. There were 5 babies, and one by one they learned how to fly. And then for about 3 days they hung around the house, and they would swoop around and stick very close to the nest, and they would return to the nest at night to sleep. And during the day, when they would perch on the roof of my porch. And so they would all be lined up there, all along the edge of the eaves troughs on the porch, 5 little babies. And then you could see the parents sitting up higher on the roof line, keeping watch. And it was just so much fun. So the fact that they're not back this year, I did see them swoop through. I saw them swoop through 2 days ago, because I heard them chattering to each other, and I saw that flash, because they are really fast. They're a fast swooping bird, and I saw them flash through the porch area and chatter to each other, and that was it. They haven't started building. They haven't done anything this year with the nest area. So I'm super disappointed about that. However, I was happy to see the fox, and I'm just about to go to the cottage in a month, and there will be plenty more wildlife up there. I am almost done her dress. So there's one in the middle here. And can you even see that color? I guess you can. Just barely. It's a very pale color on this linen, but fortunately it's surrounded on all sides. I just need 3 more stitches here, and I'm going to come up over here. There we go. 1, 2, 3. So, as you can imagine, yesterday when I went for high tea with Heidi, we discussed our high tea starts for this month. So I'm super excited about mine, and I won't be sharing with you until the end of the month, when it's time to start it for high tea. I had some questions about the tea room itself from fellow stitchers who live in Ontario or close by, who wanted to know where it is. So I will try to go back in and answer your questions, but in case you're listening to this video, I'll just tell you it was in a little town. I believe it was called King George, it's near Cambridge, Ontario. And so Heidi and I met there, and it's called Abigail's Tea Room. And it's just a beautiful little shop, little tea room with vintage china and delicious food, good service. And, you know, we had a lovely, lovely time together. And so we shared our high tea starts and we had a good chat about stitching. So if you're ever able to treat yourself, it was something very, very special. That's for sure. I've never had high tea before, a proper high tea like that. I've never had something like that before. I've certainly had tea time before in the afternoon where you have tea and a biscuit or something like that, but never the proper, you know, the goodies on a plate and served to you in a special way. So that was really fun. Very unique. I would definitely do it again, but I would certainly make it a very, very, very occasional treat because well, you might as well take those goodies and just rub them right on your hips. Top of the strawberry is the same color as the dress. So let's just get those stitches in. There's only 3 more to go. No, I can't count. 5 more to go. I'm going to come backwards up here. There we go. Over here. There. I know I said it at the beginning of this video, but I will say it again. These small little patterns that take shape quickly with just a few hours of work, there's something to be said about the satisfaction of doing these over, you know, the large mammoth projects that I normally gravitate towards. Now, why do I have an extra? Oh, I just must have run out of 1, 2, 3. I'm gonna have to fix this. This is wrong. Or is it? No, my strawberry's in the wrong place. Ah! I put my strawberry in the wrong place. But you know what? We're gonna go with it. Because if I didn't tell anyone, no one would know that my strawberry was 1 square over to the left. I know it won't be exactly symmetrical with the strawberries over in this field, but you know what? Nature isn't always symmetrical. So we're going to go with it, and I'm going to fill in those 2 little stitches with the poblano pepper, and we are going to call it good. So that's 3 and then 4. So is this still correct? So that should have been 4 stitches there, but I'm only going to have the 3. So, yep, I'll just fill that in with green and we'll call it good. Okay, done. So my ending, and I think that's a good bit of stitching done. And now I'm almost on to the fun bit. So maybe another hour of, I'm gonna try and finish the green, and then I'm gonna get to the house. I want to stitch that house tonight. That house will be mine. Okay, well, I'm gonna get this video quickly edited and uploaded so that we can have a chat tonight while you're enjoying your own stitch in tonight from 6 until midnight, or whatever time you can manage to spend on yourself, for yourself, working on your stitching. And I can't wait to see everything that you're working on the Facebook group if you choose to share it there. There's a hashtag on Instagram as well. It is hashtag Off the Grid Friday Party, and you can choose to follow that hashtag on Instagram if you so choose. There is just so much wonderful progress going on. It's a lot of fun. Thank you for joining me in this, really. Without your comments and, just your encouragement generally, you have made this an incredibly fun thing for me to do. And I appreciate you. Have a wonderful weekend. Happy stitching. And I'll see you tomorrow for Whip Mania and knitting.